my name's Carol. Welcome to the University of East London personal statement, how to make yours stand out. Really nice to have you along. I'm going to be delivering your webinar today. You can see, here I am, just for a moment. And hopefully you can see me there. And also alongside with my colleague, Sian, we're going to be delivering this webinar.
Hi everybody, I'm Sian. I work alongside Carol in the Schools and Colleges team.
So as we are all here and getting ready to go, let's have a look at what you should be able to see on your screen. So this is your control panel where you'll be able to interact with us today. So top right of your screen, you see the icon toolbar like this. Click on that orange bar and you should have access there to a little hand clap and also a chat room. So let's test it out. Give us a little wave by clicking on the little hand design there, and let's just see if we can check that's all working. Sian's gonna let me know whether she can see your little hand waves.
Nice, that's great. Yeah, I can see some of you waving your hands there.
Amazing, so fantastic. Okay, so we all know what we're doing. It's going to be an interactive session, a bit more on that in a moment. We're going to use the chat function now to test it out. Just a bit of housekeeping. Please just use your first name, no personal details in there, and you can ask your questions. And to get us started, let's think about what particular courses or subjects that you may want to study at a degree level. So you may be undecided, that's okay. Let's use the chat function, stick in there what particular course subjects or courses you may like to study. In our chat room, I should say, we have Charlotte and Annie, so they'll be answering your questions. But if you just put down any particular subjects you're thinking of studying, just so we can kind of see what your interests are in this particular session today, that would be absolutely brilliant. And then we're going to get started with the seminar on how to make your personal statements stand out. Not sure if we've got any reaction there yet, Sian.
Yes, I've got quite a few coming in, and we've got quite a mix of subjects, which is really great to see. So welcome all, and thank you already for getting involved. So we've got some really interesting subjects: animation, pharmacy, criminology, medicine, wow, aerospace, criminology or law, media. So yeah, really quite a lot of diverse subjects coming in here. Computer networks, wow.
Oh, fantastic. It's great that if you're already thinking about what you want to do, that's absolutely brilliant. And equally, if you're not quite certain either, hopefully after the end of this session, you'll kind of have an idea about how to start thinking about how you can go about what subject you want to study. So this webinar is going to last for about 45 minutes. I'm going to extend it a bit at the end, for about 15 minutes, for those of you who may have other questions that we don't get to answer during the actual webinar. The aim of the session is to help you to get started with thinking and planning and organising your personal statement. We're going to be joined by Yasmin, who's one of our current UEL students and also a former undergraduate student. By all means, take some notes on your mobile phone or a notepad. You will receive a copy of this video tomorrow, and I'll also be sending an email out with some useful links for you to use as well. It's going to be interactive, so please do get involved. And as I said, ask questions throughout, because we've got Annie and Charlotte, they're in our chat room, and they'll be able to help you with any of your questions. So a little bit about the team that myself and Charlotte work for. We work for the Schools and Colleges team, and our roles is to support students in years 6 to 12 with their higher education futures. So we collaborate with your teachers and your career leads in your schools and colleges to set up and deliver a range of activities to help you to think about your higher education future. So we put on university taster days where you come along to our campus and you can go into one of our lecture theatres, or maybe you're interested in a particular subject like animation, I think someone mentioned. We can help to set up some subject taster days around those particular themed subjects. So it's a really good job to do, and it's great to meet some of you, and I'm sure that some of us have met previously. Something else that we do that Sian's responsible for is that we use our student ambassadors to help us deliver all of our sessions and our programs, and Sian's going to tell you a bit more about our student ambassadors.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Carol mentioned, we do a lot of delivery with students like yourself, and really integral to that is some of our current university students who are, just a couple of years often older than you are now in the first, second or third year, or even master's level at university. And they support us deliver some of our outreach events. You might have actually met some of them if any of you have been to any of our on-campus visits or open days. So we've got one of our really fantastic ambassadors, Yasmin, here today, who will answer some of your questions. So if there is anything about UEL that you would like her to answer in terms of her personal statement, please do save those questions up because you will get the chance to speak to her later in the presentation.
Thank you, Sian. And just to have a visual representation here, so the University of East London, we are based on 3 campuses in East London. We've got 2 in Stratford, one at Stratford, one at University of Stratford Square, and also our Dockland campus, where we have some on-site accommodation. So let's start thinking about what we're going to try and achieve today. As I said at the top here, this is about organising and helping you to plan your personal statement and think about what needs to be included. We're going to look about how you can organise yourself, how you can plan it, structure it, and also how to help you make your personal statement stand out. I'm going to hand over to Sian now, who's got 2 very important questions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So before you put pen to paper or you sit down at your laptop and open up a word processing file, so before you write down anything, I think it's really important to consider why you're interested in the particular course that you're interested in. And secondly, how you can actually evidence this. So it's no good just saying, you're interested in biology, for example, in your personal statement. You really need to show the admissions tutors, where that interest has come from, because we really want students who are really keen and really do want to learn on their subject. So thank you so much, so many of you who got involved at the beginning and told us what subjects you'd like to study. It'd be great if now you could put in the chat box just some ideas of how you can actually evidence this at this stage. So we'll give you a minute or 2 just to do that.
Lovely, brilliant. So what were some of the subjects we had, did you say? Was it animation and astro?
Yeah, so a real mix, everything from animation to medicine, pharmacy, media, sports science. So if any of you've got any examples of how you think you can evidence your interest in that subject, please do let us know and we can read some of those suggestions out. So we're getting some coming in now, Carol.
Okay.
So Esme, thank you for getting involved. You've said you've got some work experience, so that's fantastic. Absolutely, work experience is something that if you do have and it's really relevant to your subject, it's great to put in. Got some other really great ones here. So some of you have got some extracurricular activities. You've done some kind of art in your spare time. I think that was Aaliyah. We've got a lot of work experience, which is again is fantastic.
Great. That's really good.
And some more
hard to come by.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just shows that you've really started thinking about it already as well, and volunteering as well. That looks, yeah, so really good mix. So I think we've got a very engaged bunch here, Carol.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so let's start to think about what is a personal statement, and just to ensure that we're all on the same page, I went and visited the UCAS website. So UCAS, which stands for Universities and College Admissions Service. I went over to their webpage to have a look to see, what a personal statement is. And so a personal statement is a part of your UCAS application form. So that's the form that you complete when you want to apply to go to university. And the personal statement is just a section of that. If you look to the right of your screen, I've just done a little screen grab there of what that application can look like. And you can see you've got several areas there that you have to complete to apply to go to university. So the personal statement is just one of those particular elements within that. So there's a section of education, employment, references, again, which are all really, really important and that feed into your UCAS application form. But moving back to the personal statement, this is where you get to share your skills, your subject knowledge and interests and hobbies. It's a great opportunity to sell yourself It's written by you, about you, I should say, by you. So this is the point where you really can talk about your work experience or your volunteering and your subject knowledge. We're going to go through, what I'm considering to be like 5 steps to help you plan and what to write in your personal statement. So some of you have mentioned this already, thinking about your school or college experiences. So what subjects are you studying that you can talk about in your personal statement, whether at GCSE or A-levels or BTEC? If you've done work experience, again, fantastic. Think about what that work experience was, what you did, what your role was, and what skills you may have developed from that. And also, what skills did you take along to that particular work experience? As I was saying earlier, if you had a chance to come along and visit a university, so maybe you've been to an open day or you've been along to a taster session or subject session, those are all things that can add to your knowledge and experience, particularly around a subject. Your extracurricular activities, again, as you mentioned earlier, that could all be something, again, that you can include in your personal statement. Going down to your interests or hobbies. So particularly in this digital era, some of you could be working and doing things online that you're just doing out of a hobby. But again, think about how that skills could be used to support your personal statement, particularly if it's going to feed into your subject or course. Or at this time also, you could maybe look for some podcasts, particularly if you're interested in different types of theorists or different types of creative subjects. There's a broad range of podcasts that could feed into your knowledge that could support your personal statement. One of the things that you might hear us talk about a lot is transferable skills. Transferable skills, there's some there right in front of you. We've got resilience, we've got confidence, time management, communication. These are skills that you already have from your school experience or college, or maybe a hobby, through your volunteering or work experience. The key thing here is to identify what these skills are and to transfer them onto your next step. So you'll find you'll use transferable skills throughout the whole of your career. So you can also use it within your education. So for example, say you've worked in a group at school or college and you've got an IT project or an art and design project. You may have to work in a group and you may be having to write about maybe the design of websites. So within that group, you've got to write about the design of websites, you've got to do a presentation, and you've also got to hand that in to your teacher. So if you think about that as an idea, what type of skills are you likely to be using? So I would suggest presentation skills, so communication, because you're having to verbally deliver a presentation. Time management. If you've got a time period where you've got to hand this particular piece of work in, then you've got to manage that time to ensure you meet the deadline. And that would be the same when you're studying for your mocks and doing exams. You're working in a team. So what type of skills have you had to display to the working with a team? If someone turns up late maybe, or someone doesn't play their part in that team, maybe you need got a bit of resilience there. So again, it's just thinking about your transferable skills and how this can particularly relate to what you want to do. So step 2. Knowing what course you want to do or doing some research around the course will again help you to support your personal statement application. If you're interested in quite a few subjects, then research is absolutely key. You can look at an online prospectus via the website, or you can get a physical copy and have a look at the course description and see what the qualities and skills and experience it is asking you to have. Don't forget to include your ambitions. Think about your future careers. What is it you're trying to achieve here in terms of doing this particular subject at university? And again, mention your experience, your skills and achievements that you've gained from your education work or other activities. As well as thinking about the content of your personal statement, how you structure it is absolutely really key. Thinking about the beginning, the middle and the end. You've got some guidelines here in terms of how you should think about weighting it and what you could put in particular each of these sections. So in the middle, you might want to think about why you want to apply for a course and how your various experiences support this particular choice. And then around your introduction, again, it could be thinking about some of your transferable skills. One of the things to remember about your personal statement is that it's one personal statement to apply to up to 5 universities. So if you do have interest in different subjects, try and see if you can find a common thread and theme throughout each of those subjects so that your personal statement will stand you in good stead for all of those universities that you are actually applying for. In the content, again, think about the language that you use and always structure in paragraphs. Some things, when I was talking to my colleagues about this, about writing the personal statement, and some current students, they were saying, look, really do try and avoid some cliches. And it's very easy to kind of get yourself into that mode. So write about yourself and avoid some of these things, such as from a young age, I've always been interested in, or throughout my life, I've always enjoyed. Really think about writing it from your own personal perspective and demonstrating exactly what interests you in that particular course. With the UCAS application form and particularly the personal statement, you are limited in terms of how much you can actually put in that particular section. It's 4,000 characters, or that's 47 lines. It doesn't hold any special bold or italics or underlines in that particular section, but make sure you also check your grammar. An idea that I would suggest is that you write your personal statement off the UCAS application form, write it in a WordPress or a Word document, write it out, spell check it, read it through yourself. Also, you could use one of those audio functions on one of the words, but actually read it out to you as well. And that can help you to make sure that you haven't spelled anything incorrectly, but also that you've matched the character count as well. So your personal statement should explain why you're applying for that particular course, demonstrate the relevance of your skills and experience, and convey, what you'd like to do in the future. You're writing your application form to admission staff. So the admission staff are based at the universities, and they're the ones who are going to be reading your particular application. So you're telling them why you are suitable to study at their university. Don't mention the name of the university you're applying for. As I mentioned earlier, you can apply to up to 5 universities. So you don't want to mention any university in particular, because all those universities will actually see your application. To prepare for writing your personal statement, give yourself plenty of time. And I think the fact that most of you in like year 12, you're giving yourself lots of time now because you're thinking about actually how you can start writing your first draft. Think about your structure, spoke about earlier, beginning, middle and end, and write in your own style, whatever that may be. Also, with your personal statement, don't think that you have to start from the beginning. You may decide to write the middle section first or the last section. Just work out what works for you. Include your evidence of the research or the additional reading you've done or your work experience, and definitely show some enthusiasm. Okay, so that's a lot of chat from me. I'm going to pause for a moment and see, Charlotte, if we've got any particular questions that have come up at this stage.
Yes, Carol, so we've got one very insightful question actually from a lady called Julia. So Julia's asked here, she's thinking about applying to 2 different subjects, and she's asking, does she need 2 personal statements or just one involving both subjects? So thank you for your question, Julia. That is a really good question. So you only need to write 1 personal statement. So on your UCAS form, you'll have 5 different options of courses. They can be different courses. You can apply to different courses at different universities, but you've only got 1 personal statement. So you've got to make sure that it fits all of the courses that you're interested in. So I was actually in a position, it was quite a while ago now, but I was in a similar position to you where I actually applied for 2 different courses at university. So if you're doing something called a joint honours degree, so if you're, say, doing a degree in English and French, for example, you'd have to both reference both of those subjects in your personal statement. Likewise, if you're applying for different courses at different universities, you'd need to make sure that your personal statement covered everything. So it will involve perhaps a little bit more thinking, but you've definitely got the time to do that. And universities know that. They know it's just 1 personal statement. So they're kind of used to reading, bits about other courses as well. Mm-hmm. And do let us know if that answers your question in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Sian. Shall I move on, or do you want to go to one more question?
So we've got one more question on a similar theme, actually. So I'll just read this out quickly. So Nicole here, she's asking, can you apply to 2 different courses from the same university? So yes, you can. Like I say, you've got 5 choices, and they can be 5 different institutions, or you could, apply for a couple of courses at the same institution. So yes, you can do to answer your question, you can apply for 2 different courses from the same university.
Thank you, Sian. And the key thing there, as Sian said, is that your personal statement, you don't have to think about how, because it's one personal statement that's going to represent all of those courses. Just think about those common themes and how you can make your interests stand out. So I've got a couple of personal statement examples coming up. I'm going to read them to you, not because that you can't read, but just another way that you can check how your personal statement will sound or can be seen by someone else. I'm going to get you to rate these personal statements at the end of the moment. I'm going to clear my throat. So here goes. I believe I will be a great man in future. Why? I enjoy reading. I've read nearly 50% of books in the library. I like writing too. There are more than 15 pieces of writings from me in newspapers. I have found that it's a good way to earn some extra pocket money. I don't think that one can be a genius without any efforts, so I'm always making efforts to improve myself. Because of this, I will be a great man in future. So that's our first personal statement now. So we're going to launch a poll. We want you to know, is this great work? Is it room for improvement or needs more attention? And let us know why you're submitting your particular answer. And then Sian is going to let us know exactly what you are thinking about this. So we'll give you a minute or so to do that. How's it looking, Sian?
Yeah, so nearly there. We've got about 80% of people voted. So I'll just give it just a minute longer. So if you haven't got your vote in, please do.
Okay. Exciting. Drum roll.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll now and share it so you can all see what you've voted.
What's the general consensus?
Great. So just getting this up here. So 9% have said good work. 26% have said room for improvement, and 65% have said needs more attention. As I think personally, I probably agree with those who said that it needs a bit more attention.
Yeah, me too. So should we have a look at, any thoughts? Have people said any thoughts as to why it might need some more attention, or I can move on to my next slide and share how we've improved that?
Not yet, but please do put in the chat box kind of what you think about that. Do let us know kind of what you think might need changing. So we've got it up here again for you.
Okay. All right. So while we're waiting for some responses to come in, what I'll do is I'll move on to my next slide and just have a look at see how we've expanded some of that text and some of that language to just see how we can particularly build on that. And the reason we're doing this is because we really want you to be reflective about your own personal statements and think about how you can really evidence and expand some of your experience. So as you can see here, we've written, I believe that my work ethic will help me succeed as an independent learner because I'm self-motivated and organised with my time. But again, we could do an example as to why this particular person thinks that. They said they've written numerous articles, and there's a bit of evidence there for their local newspaper's website on the rise of young entrepreneurs. And that's why they thought this experience will have them well suited to the higher education learning environment. So it really is about backing up and supporting what you're saying. Any thoughts there, Sian? I can move on to the personal statement too.
Yeah, really similar. So well done, guys. Some people saying here that it doesn't really explain why he's suitable for the course. And just about, the bit about being a great man. I think Julia's mentioned here, not kind of linking it back to very specific examples. So that's really key. And you've obviously been paying attention that you need to be incredibly specific in your personal statement. You can't just say these big sweeping statements. Somebody else here saying it's not very professional, perhaps. So yeah, some good things coming through.
Fantastic. All right, let's have a look at personal statement too. The same thing, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to get you guys to vote at the end. Okay. I believe I am suited to a career in law because I am a confident person who has the necessary maturity and persona to talk effectively in public situations. My A-level subjects have also improved my writing skill considerably, allowing me to write concisely and make in-depth analysis, which I believe means I can cope with every written aspect of the course. My sociology lesson often involves debates among a variety of issues, including those in crime and deviance, which I believe has improved communication skills and ability to look at other viewpoints by being less objective. My A-level ICT course has also enabled me to gain a good knowledge and understanding of an area which is certain to be more prevalent in the world around us. Okay, so there you go, that's personal statement number 2. We're going to launch the poll again. Again, tell us if it's great work, room for improvement or needs more attention, but also tell us why when you submit your answer, just so we can just kind of get an overview of what you're thinking about, maybe what may need more attention, what is great about it, or why it might need some room for improvement.
Great, so we've got about half of you have voted now, about 60% of you now, so I'll just give it a minute or two and then we'll close it.
Fantastic, that's good. So hopefully, just seeing these couple of examples, you're able to see, to see and use this as a bit of insight to how you can be thinking about writing and planning your personal statement, and the difference between the two. Hopefully I'm not saying too much.
Okay, great. Most of you have voted now, so I'm going to close it and share this as well. So a bit of a mix really between good work, and most of you have said good work or room for improvement, which I'd probably agree with as well. What do you think, Carol?
Yeah, I think it's a really good start. I think there is some room for improvement. I think there's some room for improvement always. So I've expanded it a bit here. You can see that text written there in yellow, just to kind of, give an example. So for example, as part of my A-level course, I worked on a mock court case and prepared and presented a defence case where I cross-examined a witness, and then basically fed that back into this A-level subject. So these are all factual. We don't put anything here that's not the truth, but it's just thinking about the actual experience that you're doing that can add that value and evidence to your particular personal statement. Thank you. Any feedback for any of our attendees on
yeah, so we've got
additional things
here.
that you can do with that particular.
Yeah, saying nothing really about estates of the course. And got another comment here, not really talking about any skills or any personal hobbies. So a couple of things that could be improved.
Great. I think what's important to say, this is like an excerpt of it as well, but you're right. Again, it's good to notice that you haven't seen those particular things within the personal statements. Thank you very much for your feedback. Okay. So here at the University of East London, we work with our admissions teams really closely. So one of the things I want to do today was to bring to this session some advice that our admissions officers who read your personal statements as part of their job, to think about what they see and what they would recommend that you should do when you think about your personal statement. So here is a couple of tips from Gemma, who works in admissions office. And as you can see here, I've highlighted some bits in green. It's all really important, but it specifically says here, avoid repeating information that is already in other sections of your application. So at the beginning where I showed you the actual UCAS application form, it had a section on education, employment and references and qualifications. And she cited an example here about not just listing all your qualifications, however, how you can link maybe a particular qualification to and expand on it if you want to talk about it around a particular level and a course that you want to do. So think about how a particular module or a placement can link to the course that you have applied for. Talk about your personal experience that has led to your choice of your degree, or again, your relevant placement or work experience. And just think about how that has contributed to what you want to study at university. And as she says here, particularly if your qualifications do not directly relate to your degree choice. So that's okay if you've studied something but you want to then move on to something else, that's okay. You just got to think about how you can link that. And then finally from Gemma, she just says, sell yourself. And one of the things that she's noticed is that applicants really do talk themselves down. So think about that again. Think about the positives that you can offer to that university and studying that particular subject. Again, she uses an example about the grades that you haven't achieved, but how you could then think about what grades you have achieved and how that can align itself to a particular other course. And also that universities will look at alternatives of what they can actually offer you if you feel or they think that maybe you're not quite ready for a particular course. As I mentioned earlier, Sian works with our team of student ambassadors, and Sian spoke to a couple of them also to give you some get some advice what they were thinking about personal statements. Sian.
So I spoke to two of our current student ambassadors, a lady called Cassiane, who's in her second year studying drama and applied theatre. So she did a very good personal statement actually, but she said that she just wished she had asked for that little bit more help. And that actually her sixth form college that she attended, they did have a careers team and they had a careers advisor. She could have spoken to her head of sixth form, but she didn't. She kind of struggled on her own. She still did, do a good personal statement, and she still did get to university. But it would have been so much easier, she said, for her if she'd have just, asked for that little bit of help. So she said, her favourite saying is, if you don't ask, you don't get, and it's very true. I'm sure. There's going to be staff at the schools or the colleges that you attend who are going to be more than happy to support you with your personal statement. So please do reach out and get their help if it's offered. I also spoke to Shamila. So she's a student doing medical physiology, so a really great student again. But she said to me, her advice for her younger self would be to not leave anything until the last minute. So time management skills, obviously Carol mentioned that this is a transferable skill. It's really important when you enter the world of work, when you're a student, or if you're a college or still a school student, it's important. So she was saying it could be your revision, your coursework, or indeed your personal statement. Lastly, she was saying, do go to the open days of your chosen universities, because the university really does have an effect on your studies, which I would really concur with. I think you really don't get a feel for the university without doing that bit of research. Obviously, at the moment, it might be difficult to physically visit a university, but lots of universities are doing kind of lots of things online, like what you're doing now. So please do make the most of everything.
Absolutely. We've got our own UEL virtual undergraduate experience on our website that you can definitely take in. So now we're going to introduce you to a current University of East London student. She goes by the name of Yasmin, and Yasmin studied psychology. I'm going to let her tell you a bit about that. So hi, Yasmin.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. All good, thank you. So it'd be really good to know about your experience of when you started thinking about going to university and then completing your personal statement. What was that journey like for you? Kind of where did you start and what did you do?
So I had to really think about what I wanted to include, and I had to really address the question. So I need to understand the question first, or what I was being asked to do. And it took a few drafts, starting from scratch, and to really make sure that I was relevant in what I'm saying and to make sure that I was hitting the point. I went to different academics. So I went to academics who were really good in writing, and then I went to staff members who had experience in processing and analysing personal statements. And so when I put all that information together, it made my personal statement quite strong.
Fantastic. And so with your personal statement, did you just write it and read it yourself, or did you actually get other people to read it for you in terms of help you, make sure that you really nailed it?
I got lots of people to proofread it, not just for grammar, but also for flow, to make sure that it flows, to make sure it's quite understanding to everyone. So I wouldn't just give it to people who were doing psychology or who understood psychology. I would ask people from a non-science background even, so they could have an objective perspective on it. And also, of course, I'd get professionals to proofread it as well, just to make sure I'm not going overboard or I'm not being too irrelevant and straying away from the main point.
Okay, fantastic. So let's think about this process then. So you completed your UCAS application form, of which part is the personal statement. What happens then in terms of then going to university? What was that process like for you? Did you go for an interview, or how did you know when you had to go, etc., things like that?
So I had to keep an eye out for my email, because in the email they might say they've given you an unconditional offer, or they might say, okay, we need to have an interview next, because some universities, they required more than just a personal statement. So I had to really prepare. Like, for example, I had to submit like a 500-word little essay, if you want to call it, on any topic in psychology. So I had to, in my sixth form, in my school, I had to find the psychology teacher to help me out and this and that. So I was just preparing for anything else. But apart from that, I was just keeping an eye on my emails, making sure I was up to date with everything, and just waiting, really.
Okay. And so I assume that, you know, that your personal statement forms part of an interview process, so they particularly can ask you questions once you get to an interview stage?
Yeah, so they sometimes, if there are certain things that have stood out, or certain things that they want to have explained want it to be explained a bit more, then they'll ask you about that. So I just had to make sure my personal statement was like, I understood everything I'd written in there, and I knew, like, I didn't just put in things that I didn't know too much about. So that's why it's always important to be prepared in case you want me to elaborate. But apart from that, it was really, really good anyway.
Oh, we're losing you a bit there, Yasmin, for some reason, but thank you very much. I hope you can still hear me.
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. So I think there, from Yasmin and from the personal statements, we're definitely seeing how important it is to, you know, speak to your teachers and your career leads to get them to help you to shape your personal statement and get some advice and support from them. Yasmin's going to stick around for some questions. So Sian, I don't know if you've got any particular questions now around personal statements that we can ask Yasmin, or you and I can answer.
Yeah, so we've got one question here from a lady called Jo. So how can I decide what course that I want to do at university? So at this stage, Jo's saying that she's just not certain. I'm not sure, Yasmin, kind of your experience with this, of actually picking your course, might be quite helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also had that issue as well, because there are so many courses and there are different types of courses within that course. So I would say really research and look into the module programs, into the module courses within it. Really look into it, see if that actually will help you into the long run in the career. Sorry, can everyone hear me properly? Is it still clear?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And so just really research and see if this will help you, and if not, then try and get in touch with the lecturers, and they might be able to provide you more information. I was able to get in touch with a certain lecturer through email, and they helped me a lot, helping to decide what would be best for me.
Brilliant. Can I just add, Sian, also, I would say another way to think about what particular course or subject you want to do is, you know, think about maybe what type of job you would like in the future. So you could think back from a job or a career you might like, and see what particular degrees may be useful to and beneficial to help you to get to that particular career as another way to research it. Any thoughts, Sian?
Yeah, it sounds really good. I think the more research you do, the more you're going to find kind of what you're interested in. So yeah, some really good suggestions from both Carol and Yasmin there. Do we have time for one question from an international student?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so we've got one question here from Daniela, and she's asked here, what's the difference for a student from the US? So welcome. I hope it's not too early in the US at the moment for you. And she's asked, what would be different than applying through UCAS, which we use here in the UK? So I know my colleague Annie's replied, but just in case this question is relevant to other international students on this webinar. So we're the Schools and Colleges team, our expertise mainly lie within kind of the UK higher education system, but we do have a really fantastic international team here who will be much better placed to answer any kind of questions around the procedure for international students. So please do contact them. They're all working remotely, but still working. So their email is international at uel.ac.uk. So please do get in contact with them there.
Thank you, Sian. Okay, so to summarise, I would say we need to be organised with planning your personal statement. Hopefully you agree with that too. If you do, give us some hands. You want to be organised to get yourself started, and you've got a bit of time, some of you. The personal statement is about you. It's about your skills, your knowledge and your achievements, and how you can showcase and demonstrate that within your personal statement. You've got to follow the UCAS guidelines, the 4,000 characters, the 47 lines. Do speak to your teachers, career leads, subject heads to help you and support you through this particular process. Check your grammar and all those amazing things. I've got some do's and don'ts here. So do write a list to prepare. So if you've done a particular subject, your subjects, write your subjects out, and then you can really expand on what you did within those subjects and maybe what your transferable skills are. Don't mention any of the university names in your personal statement. Remember, you're going to be applying up to 5 universities, and all universities will see that one personal statement. Think about the common themes that you may have, particularly around a subject within a course subject, if it is a thread throughout. Do sell yourself. Speak really positively. Don't be negative about what you haven't got. Speak about what you have got and what you would like to do. Think about your structure in terms of that beginning, middle and end. And also, don't leave it to the last minute. Visit the UCAS website for more information. Also, you can find some information here at the UEL website as well. I think we are slowly approaching Q2, our 45 minutes. What I'd like to add is that we do have a couple of things happening here on the UEL website that you can participate from the dates. So from 11th of May, we've got some virtual masterclasses. These are going to be videos recorded by our academic staff around some of those subjects. And then also we've got some live Q&As, just very much like this webinar, from the 18th to 21st of May. And it's a range of subjects. I just put a few there, but it's over 30 subjects. So keep an eye on our website. And I also will be contacting some of your teachers and career leads, etc. If any of you have got any further questions, now's the time to drop them into the box, and then we will try and answer as many as we can before we sign out. So do let me know, Sian, if there's any particular questions there.
Yes, we've got quite... Sorry, just saying we've got quite a few coming in, which is great.
Okay. Brilliant. Let's go through them.
Great. So we've got, yeah, I'm trying to put them into themes so I can answer, you know, hopefully provide answers to a lot of you here. So we've got some here just all coming through. Sorry, 1 second, just going back to the ones that I flagged.
All right. While Sian
so we've got one. Sorry, go on, Carol.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, while you're doing that, if you want to keep up to date with what we are doing here at the university, you can follow us on our socials at University of East London. But yeah, we're ready for your questions when you are, Sian.
Great, so we've got one here from Esme saying, what do you do if you haven't had a chance to do work experience or other activities yet? So Esme, what I would say is that it's never too late. You know, even now, when there's going to be limited experiences for you to perhaps physically volunteer somewhere, there still is things you can do. So depending on the subject that you're interested in, you can find podcasts, you can find articles online, you can find you know, online lectures, webinars, you know, there's so much now online that you can access. So I'd say, you know, you don't have to be doing an activity since, you know, year 9 or year 10 for it to be relevant in your personal statement. Even something that you've been doing for a few months, if it shows a really genuine interest in the subject that you're wanting to study, you can put it on. So I'd say, please don't despair. Hopefully some of you have got the time at the moment to be at home and doing bits and pieces. So please do utilise it. And have a think about what you can do from home.
Great, yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, you know, if you find a particular article or a podcast, just make a note of it, what it was called, make a note of when you read that, just so you know, so you can keep yourself a little timeline of kind of the things that you are picking up and that you're doing virtually and online, which I think, so including this particular session, you know, make a note of this, that you've taken a part in a University of London's webinar. Just add that to one of your list of things that you've done.
We've got another question here from Nicole, Carol, which I think would be quite interesting for a lot of people out here. So Nicole's asked, do you need to do work experience within a company that deals with your particular subject? So that's a really great question. I think the more relevant the experience is, obviously that's great. However, as Carol mentioned earlier in the presentation, transferable skills are the things that universities and employers, once you get into the world of work, are after. So I once read in a previous role where I worked with young people writing personal statements, and somebody who had written about their experience at Sainsbury's and their time management experience from that, and all of the things that they'd gained. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a company that is relevant to your subject for it to be really still impactful for your personal statement. And being able to balance your, your studies at A-level or BTEC, you know, we know how hard it is, and being able to balance that with a part-time job, I think a lot of universities would look very, very favourably on that. We do also recognise that some of you trying to get into things like medicine, it can be, or midwifery is another good example, it can be incredibly difficult to actually get that very specific work experience. So any of you who are in that position, I'd say anything, even if, you know, working at a care home, you know, sometimes you do have to think slightly outside the box to get that experience.
Definitely. And I think a lot of you are probably going to be quite digitally savvy as well, just in terms of the times that we're at. So it's thinking about how you could particularly maybe support some organisations digitally, maybe with setting up websites or helping with social media accounts and things. And I know it's not directly working with people per se, and it's definitely not going to help you if you want to be possibly a doctor or nurse, but it's showing that you're interested and committed potentially to that area of work.
Yes, absolutely. So we've got a very interesting question here from Asma, asking, does taking a gap year affect chances to get in? So I'd say, and Carol, be interesting to hear your thoughts as well. I'd say really it's the quality of your application. So, you know, you can go to university at any point in your life. You can go straight after school if you wish, or lots of people go as mature students, or at slightly different points. I think admissions tutors will look at the overall quality of your application. So they'll look at your personal statement, and they'll look at the grades that you've got, and they'll look at your experience. I'd say if you do take a gap year, you know, just make the most of it, and perhaps that's something you could put in your personal statement. I've seen really good personal statements where people have done, you know, voluntary work over their gap year, paid work, or they've perhaps travelled and they've got lots of great experiences from that. I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, Carol.
I agree with everything that you're saying there, Sian. I think it's about the quality of your personal statement and how you promote and sell yourself within that personal statement. And as Sian says, that you can study it at any time. So I think, yeah, you know, it's thinking about what you want to do with that particular gap year. I suppose if I was doing an interview, I'd probably ask, what did you do that gap year? So, I'd make your gap year meaningful, potentially. Like you said, if it's going to be working or traveling, just having something to talk about.
Great, we've got another question here from James. So thank you for your question, James. He's asking, do some universities place more or less emphasis on the personal statement? So for example, do some rely more on grades, and are some more interested in the content of your personal statement? I've heard that some universities don't read them. So both Carol and myself, we work at the University of East London, so we kind of can't speak on behalf of any other university. What I would say, James, is make your application in full the strongest it can be, and you'll have the most chance with all of the 5 universities that you put down on your UCAS form. So that means getting the grades, you know, the highest grades that you can, and doing the best personal statement that you can as well. You know, being, you know, as the best student that you can in sixth form or school, so your teachers write, you know, the best teacher reference that they can. So I'd say universities, they do look at the applications on the whole. So put as much, put your emphasis into just making a very complete, very strong application. I can say at UEL, we definitely do read them. So please do put some time and thought. It could be that you might be on the borderline with your grades, but the personal statement is something that you can definitely control. I don't know, Carol, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think every course will have a certain amount of UCAS points that will be for entry. So I think your qualifications are your grades are important, and I think as important alongside your personal statement. So I think just be honest with your grades and your personal statement, and then I think that will stand you in great stead. Okay, any more questions there?
Yes, I'm just trying to pick out all the ones which are left on personal statement, and then we've got a few others just generally regarding university that we can try and answer as well if helpful to people.
Yeah, hopefully Yasmin's still here, so she might be able to help us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me see if there's any that will be good for Yasmin to answer. So we've got somebody, Olu, here asking. So it sounds like Olu's written some articles already, which is fantastic. Should things like this be included within the personal statement?
So what's the question?
I'm sorry, Yasmin. So can articles that one has written be included in the personal statement? So I'm guessing this person is asking if, and please do correct us if I'm wrong, but if they've already written some articles which perhaps published, should they say that they have done that in their personal statement?
I believe so, especially if it's relevant to the course that you're applying for, because it just shows that you're already one step ahead in terms of research and things like that. So anything that you believe will make you stand out and that would really help you, then yeah, I would definitely put that in.
Yeah, great. I definitely agree as well. If you've done that, please do. So we had some questions actually last time when we hosted this webinar, people asking about not wanting to seem perhaps big-headed or arrogant when writing a personal statement. So I don't know, Yasmin, and we did get quite a few questions. So I don't know if that's something you could kind of expand on. How do you write without, if you're worried about perhaps appearing arrogant, for example?
Yeah, of course. So it's kind of like putting an invisible ceiling above you. So you just have to really make sure you're not bubbling too much over the surface. So just making sure you're relevant, making sure that it's kind of like an essay when you refer back to the title all the time. So a personal statement, you're showing them why they should accept you, why you need their course. So if you just stick to that and you stay relevant and you include everything you need to include, not just everything you can fit in, I think that should probably help you. And just also if you maybe made mistakes and you've really improved from them, even things like that. So be respectful to yourself, of course, and acknowledge your value, but at the same time just make sure you stay relevant and you don't go over.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Yeah, okay, definitely agree there.
Okay, so I think we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. Sean, do you want to ask them about anything else?
Yeah, so perhaps another question here that Yasmin might be well suited to answering. So Kayan here has asked, how would you structure the benefit of attending a university open day or event on your personal statement?
So as in explaining that that's where they got the information from the open day, or?
That's all the information we have, but I assume, and please let us know in the chat box if we're wrong, but if you've done something at a university, so perhaps you've gone to a taster day or a summer school or something like that, how should you kind of write about that in the personal statement, or should you even write about it in the personal statement?
Oh, I see. I think I would, because if a lot of the time you kind of have to show where did this interest come from in the first place, and if it came from, or if it was helped by lecturers that you interacted with, or even activities or certain seminars, mini seminars that you attended to in open days and things like that, you could perhaps put that in the part where my interest spiked when I went to this, or there was a particular topic in whatever subject that I found interesting, which I found from an open day at this university or at a certain university. Maybe don't want to mention a specific university. So yeah, if that is relevant and that helps you explain your interest, then maybe I would say so.
Great,
That's
thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, I've just got time for one more question, Sian.
Great. So I'm going to try and answer a question from Audrey here. Actually, perhaps I'll combine it because there's two quite similar.
Okay.
So asking about whether the amount of A levels you take matters, and we've got another question here around does it matter which A levels you take? So thinking about your university application in the whole, it's very difficult for us to give definitive answers on every course at every university. So really you must do your research. Some subjects at university will require you to have studied specific A levels or BTECs. There will be some courses at universities where you just need a certain amount of UCAS points, which can be gained from a range of different A levels or BTECs. So a good example would be something like medicine, where you'd have to have taken some science subjects, and that would be very well stated on the university's website. So really it is a case of doing your research. On the question of does the amount of A levels you take matter, again, it depends where you are applying to and what their entry requirements are. If you're applying to somewhere, so for example at UEL, a lot of our courses rely on UCAS points, and you can get UCAS points from a range of different A levels or BTECs, and it's the number of points that you need to get. So in that case, as long as you got the points, that would be sufficient. But like I say, it will vary year to year, university to university, and course to course. So the real key that I hope all of you can take out of this is just the importance of doing your research.
Thank you so much there, Sian. Thank you very much, Yasmin, Charlotte and Annie in our chat room. And also thanks to you for coming along to our webinar today on personal statement, how to make your stand out. I really do hope that it's been of a great use to you. As I mentioned at the top, for those of you that are still here, you will receive this video, but also I'll be emailing you with